It's a lighter take at a serious question of how formative years impact young girls and shape women today. Joining us now, author and associate professor at the University of Iowa, Melissa Febos. Her second essay collection, entitled Girlhood, is a national bestseller, and it touches on some real issues confronting young women today.
And Melissa, yes, that was a much lighter take.
Much lighter.
on some of the challenges that you faced growing up. I want to read a part of the book that really, Meek and I both were really moved by. At 12, you write, I already had a body like those women in magazines, but it was no prize, and they offered me no congratulations. It was a race I had won without trying, and to win it was the greatest loss of all. Explain how developing at 11 and looking like a woman at 12, how difficult that was, unlike your peers. Talk about how moving through that at such a young age was the greatest loss of all for you.
Sure. Well, like many young girls, I was really confident and athletic and good in school before adolescence. And I had really wonderful, supportive, loving parents. And then I developed early, and there's just no way that my parents could have prepared me for the change of my body's meaning in the world. And what this meant in practical terms was that men started reacting to me everywhere I went, and it was like I became an adult overnight. And there was just no amount of sort of support or love in my household that could combat that radical, shocking, and incredibly disorienting change in the world. And it was really reflected and enacted in many ways by my peers at school as well. And my research for this book really taught me that although it felt very sort of personal and I felt really isolated in the experience, which, most girls who experience it do, it's actually incredibly common. And really sort of any quality that makes a girl an outlier at that age will result in this kind of treatment and to some extent ostracization.
You also wrote, I had no control over what happened next. The names they called me in school, the crude gestures, the prank phone calls, not even when my mother answered the phone. She wanted to help me, but I had no words for what was happening. My chambers were breached. They filled with that weight. I was sunk. How could she have prepared me for this? You cannot win against an ocean. There is no good strategy in a rigged game. There are only new ways to lose.
And Melissa, you might have faced, the catcalls and the reaction from men as you developed so early and you looked like a woman, but you were a girl. But I'm also really moved by the way you described how your female peers pulled away from you and how painful that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, this is one of those experiences that I think on some level we're very familiar with. There's a cultural narrative around it, but it hasn't changed. It's still happening, this kind of policing of female bodies and this projection of a certain kind of sexual shame and promiscuity or advanced sexual development that simply isn't true. My body changing over the course of a single summer didn't make me not a child anymore, but I was suddenly dealing with some very adult treatment. And I think one of the most devastating consequences of this is the shame that comes from it, which leads to secrecy, and in that passage, part of what I'm talking about is my inability to talk about it. I had parents that really wanted to support me and were totally dismayed at what they could see, which was just a little bit of the consequences on the surface, my withdrawal and anger. But I was so embarrassed. It's the nature of sort of body shaming that I felt like it was my fault. And so I never talked to them about it. And I was getting these harassing phone calls and never telling anyone about it. And honestly, until I wrote this book, there were so many experiences, sort of micro and a little bit larger, that I never talked to anyone about because of that shame that was generated when I was 11 and 12 years old.
This is so fascinating. I want to bring in Katty Kay. She's the author of The Confidence Code and The Confidence Code for Girls. And Katty and I are always looking for new ways to help young women develop confidence and their ability to communicate effectively. And Katty, this is really kind of like a side sub-issue that could overtake the entire conversation about confidence.
Yeah, because one of the things, Melissa, that you've pointed out is that girls really, socializing is so important for girls as they hit puberty. And it's really the be all and end all is your friend group. So to lose that support network, I can see how that would have a kind of double whammy effect on your confidence. And girls are already losing their confidence in those years and getting so anxious about failure. What was it that got you through the other end of this? Was it other girls catching up with you? Did you find a support network somewhere? Did you find people you could talk to? Or did it just have to be time and patience and waiting for your body to look more like the bodies of those girls around you?
Well, it was really sort of a combination of all of those things. You know, as I said, I had a very supportive family, and while in the sort of throes of it, I know they felt really helpless. The kind of love and support and confidence boosting that I did receive for my whole childhood, I really feel that it gave me a bedrock of confidence and resiliency and belief in myself that was there for me when I was ready to come back to it. And, you know, I did have friends, one-on-one best friends. And I will say also that for me, literature and books and finding descriptions of my own experience in young adult literature, I really found a haven in stories.
So Melissa, we've talked a lot specifically about what had such an impact on you, and that was developing into a woman at 11 or 12, looking like a woman at 11 or 12 to the outside world. But you actually bring that up to take the readers into a much larger issue, and that is women not having control of their own bodies, women not having control of their own destiny, women too often not having the confidence to take charge for themselves. Can you get into that a little bit here?
Sure. Well, you know, in this book, I really wanted to start a bigger conversation, not about what I've come to think of as sort of capital T trauma, the violent assaults and forms of overt abuse that most of us are familiar with. And there is a larger public conversation around. I'm interested in the more micro harms and the ways that girls are conditioned to value the desires and interests and bodily sovereignty of other people over themselves. And one of the ways that I really looked into this, starting with my own experience and then through a lot of interviews with other women, is an idea that I coined empty consent. You know, we have this discourse around consent. First, it was no means no. Now it's moving into a yes means yes. But I'm really interested in that means. What does it mean for us to really mean yes? And I'm not just talking about sexual interactions here, but all kinds of forms of touch, and how I observed in myself my tendency to say yes to things I didn't really want because it seemed more important to not disappoint the other person. And this dynamic reverberated in every level of my life. And once I started talking to other women, I realized that it did for them too. And many of these conversations were the first time that we were naming this, right? And I think that that conversation is really the beginning of the undoing of that kind of conditioning and a route to a greater freedom in our bodies and in our lives.
The new book is Girlhood. Melissa Febos, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate it. Coming up.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.